Yukito, the successor of a cult leader, has always devoted his life to the enigmatic goddess Mitama. However, his fate takes a drastic turn when a ceremonial rite to make him the cult's next leader takes a fatal turn, resulting in his demise. To his amazement, Yukito is reborn into a world where the existence of a divine being is unheard of, and the ultimate power of life and death rests in the hands of the state. As Yukito strives to safeguard his new community, the goddess of his past life joins him and provides invaluable aid. Yukito, a young man born to a devout cult leader dedicated to the god Mitama, is drowned by his own people in hopes that he will be reborn as their next leader. But as Yukito struggles for air, he fervently wishes to be reborn in a world free from the grip of religion, which has dominated his life for too long. Miraculously, Yukito's wish is granted as he awakens in a strange new world, next to a kind-hearted girl named Alural, in an isolated village. Showing great hospitality, she invites him to a restaurant and insists to be Alural's guest, allowing Yukito to eat anything that he desires. His curiosity about this alternate world is piqued, and he inquires about a job, which Alural readily provides. She assigns him farming duties, and he quickly makes friends with the villagers, including Alural's sister Siluril and farmers Clen and Roy. Despite discovering that there are beasts in the world, Yukito realizes that unfortunately there are no magical weapons or spells to fight them. Furthermore, any injuries are treated manually without the aid of advanced medical techniques. During the last few days, he works as a farmer, cuts a lot of berries, and teaches his new friends how to make wine from them. A few weeks later, Yukito visits the Imperial City with his friends. Alural and Roy hope to procure some pornographic magazines. However, Yukito witnessed a horrific sight. A public mass self-death, which is a common practice in this world, due to the lack of religious dogma that promotes the fear of death. It dawns on him that in the absence of religion, there are some serious consequences, and that the government could decide to exterminate citizens who are deemed social deviants or no longer of use. Alural and the other villages are considered deviants who are afraid of death, and as a result they are ostracized and forced into isolation. Once they are back in the village, Alural seeks solace in Yukito's company and confides in him about the stigma that surrounds their people. She reveals a mark on her back which is indicative of their outcast status. Yukito is moved by her plight, and in a gesture of kindness, he gives her his protective charm, the only thing that has reincarnated with him from the previous life. One day, Alural and Siluril vanish, and Roy appears with grave injuries, warning Yukito that the outcast can be executed at any moment. Clen urges him to join forces to rescue the sisters, and they set off immediately. However, upon arriving at their destination, they discover Siluril has already been killed, and as they attempt to free Alural from the guards, both she and Yukito are slain. As he lies dying, Yukito clings to the protective charm around Alural's neck, and in a desperate attempt to save the innocent villagers, he prays to Mitama, the god of his previous life. Suddenly, lightning strikes and Mitama appears before him in the form of a young girl. The goddess reveals that she has been eagerly waiting for Yukito to call upon her, and she promptly murders the government soldiers and resurrects both Yukito and Alural. Overwhelmed with excitement at the prospect of being the only deity in this new world, Mitama claims Yukito as hers. Mitama, the mighty goddess, demonstrates her immense power by resurrecting not only Siluril, but also other hanged deviants. Alural becomes jealous and misunderstands the nature of Mitama and Yukito's relationship. However, she continues to adore Yukito when the goddess comforts her and tells Alural to keep loving him. Meanwhile, the men in the village are joyously celebrating and imbibing the wine that Yukito had taught them to make. However, he is fraught with worry about the government's potential retaliation for the soldiers who had been slain. In a desperate attempt to avert disaster, Yukito turns to Mitama for help, only to discover that her powers have been diminished by the lack of believers in this new world. Fearing for their safety, he realizes that the only way to restore Mitama's godly abilities is by acquiring 10,000 followers who believe in her divine powers. Roy becomes an ardent admirer of Mitama and is smitten with her, but she rebuffs him and treats the farmer with disdain. Nonetheless, he remains devoted to Mitama, and when asked to become her follower, Roy readily agrees. He becomes Mitama's first and only devotee. Despite their small victory, the goddess is disappointed that Yukito remains skeptical of her true power and is unwilling to follow her. Yukito, realizing the critical importance of acquiring more believers in Mitama's divinity, decides to use his persuasive oratory skills to rally the villagers to her cause. However, Mitama is confident in her ability to impress the villagers through her vast knowledge of the world. Mitama's attempt to demonstrate her godly insight, however, turns out to be a disappointment. During the villagers' gathering, she lists a series of embarrassing incidents from Yukito's childhood that fail to impress or inspire belief in her divine nature. Determined to rally support, Yukito again tries to persuade the villagers to become Mitama's loyal followers. through fortune-telling and magic tricks. However, he fails to inspire any belief in them. Meanwhile, Roy and Mitama also attempt to convince the people, but their efforts also prove fruitless. One day, Alural's beloved pet fox, Chil dies from consuming poisonous grass. Mitama is able to resurrect it using the single spark of magic from Roy's unyielding belief. Witnessing this miraculous event causes both Alural and Siluril to become true believers in Mitama's godly powers. She's suddenly infused with great strength and gains immense power, leading Yukito to realize that the potency of her abilities is directly proportional to the strength of her followers' belief in her. With some of her power restored, Mitama agrees to Alural's request to resurrect the innocent soldiers who had perished while obeying the government's orders. Although Yukito is taken aback by the request, Alural insists that it is the right thing to do. Mitama uses her powers to resurrect all the soldiers, but to the soldiers' commander, Bertrand's great displeasure, he is resurrected as a woman, causing him to feel intense anger and frustration. Following her resurrection as a woman, Bertrand attempts to return to the imperial government, but it turns out to be futile due to her new status as a nameless deviant. Overwhelmed by sadness and rejection, she returns to the village, where Yukito offers her a comforting embrace and invites Bertrand to stay with them. She graciously accepts the invitation, finding solace in the warm hospitality and kind-heartedness of the villagers. One fateful day, a menacing beast invades the village, destroying crops and causing widespread chaos. Despite Matima's best efforts, she is unable to subdue the beast, until Bertrand emerges as the unlikely hero and vanquishes the beast with her sword-fighting skills. Yukito recognizes the villagers' admiration for Bertrand's bravery and charisma, and cunningly attributes her success to Matima's divine intervention, further augmenting her reputation. Impressed by Bertrand's prowess and loyalty, Yukito offers her the esteemed position of Mitama's holy knight, which she accepts with a sense of gratitude. With the number of Mitama's followers still relatively low, Yukito now decides to resort to new tactics to boost the number of worshippers. He starts offering the villagers exclusive membership benefits like priority protection from monsters and access to Mitama's restorative magic. To further entice prospective followers, Yukito initiates a scheme to modernize the village by providing state-of-the-art amenities, including storage pots for fruits and vegetables. As Mitama's popularity surges, Bertrand faces the challenge of being forced to dress and behave in a more feminine manner by Alural and Siluril. One day during a conversation with Yukito, Bertrand reveals that the Imperial Army's true power stems from the Archons, the elite warriors granted incredible abilities by the Emperor. Yukito is also mesmerized by the soldier's sword, which appears ordinary but is surprisingly powerful. Upon inquiring about it, he comes to know that the sword is crafted by the Emperor himself and cannot be bought anywhere. Meanwhile, the Archon named Atar is assigned to task of annihilating the village by the Emperor, but her progress is continually hindered by monstrous creatures appearing out of nowhere. In the meantime, a sudden wave of inspiration washes over Yukito as he sees a dream triggered by a vivid memory of his father. In his dream, the patriarch remarks that the most successful religions often begin with only a small following, gradually expanding through perseverance and dedication. His father tells him how his own religion only had 100 followers at the inception, but now it has 10,000 devoted followers. Following this, with Clin's enthusiastic approval, Yukito resolves to evolve the village's practices and culture. He is determined to modernize and adapt the villagers for a new era. After a month, Atar makes her way to the village and unexpectedly comes across Bertrand, who is now sporting even more daring and provocative attire. As the Archon scans her using a technological system implanted in Atar's eye, she comes to know about Bertrand's real identity instantly, after making a snap decision to abduct the ex-soldier, desperate to uncover the secret behind his gender transformation. Meanwhile, the Archon also can't help but be taken aback by the stunning transformation that has taken place in the village. The once backward community has now evolved beyond recognition, boasting a plethora of cutting-edge technologies, including towering wind turbine generators, sleek and stylish motorized vehicles, and sprawling industrial-sized farmlands. The extent of the changes is nothing short of astonishing, and Atar can't help but marvel at the technology as she has never seen such things before. A month back, Yukito had Mitama summon the latest modern technology using her powers, which he restricted to her believers. He kept impressing the people of the village by introducing new gadgets again and again with the help of the goddess's powers. Due to this, Mitama's followers quickly grew to nearly 2,000. Yukito also introduced a new belief system which he called exclusivity. This concept instilled in Matima's followers the belief that they were superior to non-believers. One day as Clen and Bertrand were talking to Yukito, the former confessed that he was not a deviant after all. Clen told them that he had previously worked in the Emperor's palace but became disenchanted with that way of life and voluntarily moved to the deviant's village. Curious about what a god really was, he then asked Yukito to explain the concept of the gods to him. The latter told Clen about various types of gods and religions. Yukito was also curious as to why the concept of gods had never been occurred to them to explain unexplainable events like natural disasters in this world. Bertrand clarified that all events as such were explained by members of the assembly who worked under the emperor, leaving nothing unexplainable. In the present, Yukito discovers that Atar has captured Bertrand. Meanwhile, the Archon is amazed by the village's progress and deduces that someone from outside is helping the villagers. While she prepares to attack Bertrand, Mitama, along with Yukito and others, arrive at the scene. With a power of 2,000 believers, the goddess fights against Atar's Archon power. At first, she fights valiantly, causing Atar to become fatigued and seemingly running out of power. However, Mitama ultimately runs out of power first. Atar, enraged by their resistance, destroys the village by her immense powers. However, it reappears unscathed. To everyone's surprise, Klen arrives at the scene and reveals himself as a female Archon named Loki, under an illusion disguise. As the main Archon with a vast amount of power, she has revived the village. Klen, aka Loki, then appears behind Yukito and Mitama, whispering in their ears. She tells them that they are perfect candidates to assist her in assassinating the Emperor, and it is now the right time to complete this mission. The end, for now. Thanks for watching. If you like this recap, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell to be notified of any new recaps. And while you're at it, check out this new anime recap appearing on the screen.